James Madison. This is an interesting one. We got so the coach is gone. He's at Indiana. He took both coordinators with him. He also took some players with him.
Yeah, a lot of players.
The new head coach is Chesney. He comes in from Holy Cross. He was there for 6 years. Holy Cross, a very good FCS program. He brought his OC from Holy Cross with him. The DC was the safeties coach at Duke. Before that, he was the safeties coach at Wake Forest. So that's the new coaching staff here at James Madison. 123rd in returning production. Just 7 returning starters. But here's the thing. It's kind of weird because they also brought in a lot. So, yeah, they're as far as their team from last year, a lot of it's gone. But they also brought in their quarterback, Jordan McLeod, obviously gone. He transferred to Texas State. Kind of a lateral move. You don't see that
Yeah, I
too
didn't
often.
understand that one.
Well, he left because his coach left.
Yeah.
So he's with Texas State now. But they brought in Dylan Morris, who, look, I think maybe as right now when we're looking at it, you have to say that's probably a downgrade. But I don't think it's crazy to say Dylan Morris ends up having a better season than McLeod. I don't think that's a crazy take. I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that's plausible. I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, they got a huge downgrade at quarterback. How about that? That's probably most accurately phrased is what I'm trying to say. They lose their top 3 running backs, top 4 rushers if you include McLeod, but they brought in that kid from North Texas, Adai. How do I say his name?
I think you said it right. Adai. It's either Adai or Adai. I would say Adai.
Adai. 1,000-yard rusher last year. They also brought in 2 other backs from the portal. So they lost their top 3 rushers from last year, but should be fine. I mean, they got 3 formidable backs in. Their receiving weapons took a hit. They had 2 1,000-yard receivers last year. Both are gone. They did bring in a couple through the portal, though. I don't think anyone's significant. I think that is one position group where you could say they're weaker is wide receiver. On defense, the best defensive player, or maybe the best player in the Sun Belt Conference is gone. Jalen Green, 15 and a half sacks in just 9 games before he got hurt. He was the Sun Belt Conference Defensive Player of the Year. He's gone. I don't even know what I would imagine he's still dealing with that injury.
Yeah, it's the injury because he declared for the draft and he was in it. Didn't get drafted.
He was 15 and a half sacks in 9 games. It's crazy. I would imagine he'll pop up on an NFL camp maybe next year. But he's gone. All 4 defensive linemen are gone, and that's the huge factor here. That's because the reason that's such a huge factor is the strength of this James Madison team was stopping the run last year. No one could run on this team. In fact, I believe they were second in the country in yards per carry allowed, second in rushing success rate defensively or something like that. So this James Madison team last year, elite against the run, and that was part of the reason they had such a successful season was no one could run the ball on them. I don't know if that's the case this year, and I think if you take away that run defense, that things look a lot different. An elite run defense like that can make that helps everywhere. That can make the entire team look better. So if you take away that elite run defense, I think the rest of James Madison looks a bit worse. So I don't like that all 4 defensive linemen are gone. They mostly lost all their linebackers too. But they did bring in that kid from Holy Cross. Apparently he's the man. The coach brought him with him. 2-time Patriot League Defensive Player of the Year. He's got like 130 career tackles. So I'm sure he's nice, but still lost all the linebackers. Secondary should be okay. They lost a couple starters, but they brought in another kid from Holy Cross and a kid from UConn. So it's really the defensive line that got gutted. I don't know. It's definitely a step backwards from last year, but they did bring in a lot of talent. So the question is there an adjustment period with the new coach and new faces? And you would have to say probably, right?
Yeah, I like you said about the coach, he did turn Holy Cross into a really, really good FCS program. They were 44-21 in his time there. They also almost beat Army last year, which is a game that's a rivalry game they never win. So they nearly won that one. But I think it's a lot like how in a few weeks we're going to talk about Sig at Indiana, Coach Sig. I kind of feel the exact same way about the place he left. I think you took a coach from Holy Cross and he's now trying it with his guys, just like Coach Sig's doing out there. He took a lot of guys from JMU's defense and he took a lot of guys period from him. I think it's some alignment too. It's the adjustment that you can't really predict. Like these guys from Holy Cross, great. You were playing in the Patriot League. So like you don't know how those stats are actually going to translate. And that's why this team was so hard for me. I needed to look deep at the schedule for it because I thought losing McLeod is brutal. And I do think Morris was good in his 1 year of heavy playing time. He threw for 2,400 yards at Washington a few years ago, but he hasn't played much since. He's been a backup since. He's got 30 pass attempts in the past 2 seasons. So you don't really know what you're getting from him. I think it'll be fine, not great. This team was just so perfect last year that I don't think they'll replicate any of it with nobody back. So I really don't like the roster at all.
Yeah, but here's the thing with James Madison is they have such an easy schedule this year.
They do.
There's no Texas State, there's no Arkansas State, there's no Louisiana. They do have at Appalachian State on the 23rd towards the end of the season, which is a definite loss. They also go at North Carolina, which is a definite loss. But other than that, I mean, I think every single game on the schedule is winnable for James Madison. So I guess you would have to say over 8, but I'm not betting over 8 at -125 for a team that I don't even think is necessarily that good. I think they're actually worse than they were last year. So it'd be over a pass at this number, but just because of the easy schedule.
I would say the same. I would say over a pass, but I will say this. I would not be surprised if you're looking at a lot of these games. You're saying like Georgia State or Georgia Southern, ULM, Old Dominion, like in face value, James Madison is better than them by name. But who's to say by week 3 we're looking at James Madison as a team that just nobody's translating and nothing's happening for this team? Like in a few weeks into the season, we could be looking at this team like, oh, they're going to be one of the bottom dwellers of this conference because of how bad. I mean, the roster is not good, so we'll see what happens with them.
All right, next team, which is
ULL,
the Cajuns, and all right, so Louisiana. Go ahead, Andy. You take Louisiana because I didn't even really look.
Yeah, a lot returning here for Louisiana. Let me pull up my first preview.